Hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about Alpine's new KTA 450 compact amplifier. So let's get started. So with the introduction of the W650 short chassis radio, Alpine decided to make an amplifier that was designed to attach directly to the back of it. It's not the only thing you have to use it for, but it does make it an extremely convenient way to get more power from this particular radio. So let's open it up and take a look at what's inside. First thing you're going to find is the instructions/warranty card. Next, you're going to find the amplifier itself. Now the amplifier measures 7 inches by 3 5/8 by 1 1/4. We also have a bag of zip ties, the main power harness, some side brackets, a bag of screws, and the main bracket for mounting it to the back of the radio. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at the sides of the amplifier. Now just like its older brother, the 455U, it has some dip switches here on the side for setting the crossover and the channel configuration. First up is your high pass crossover for all 4 channels. Now they can be set differently, meaning channels 1 and 2 can be one crossover and 3 and 4 can be the next. You have 60, 80, and 120 Hertz. You have RCA or speaker level input selection, and you have 2-channel or 4-channel input mode. You have your front gain and you have your rear gain. On the other end, you have your recessed power input. Now it is recessed in 7/8 of an inch. We'll plug it in to get an idea. Now once you plug it in, give it a good yanking to make sure that it has clicked into place. Now on the amplifier itself, it has a couple wires, so let's take a look at them. First up, you have your black ground and your yellow power. These are made to go off to a battery. Something like a 10 gauge or a 12 gauge at a minimum would be perfect. You have your speaker level outputs here. Standard colors: white for driver, gray for passenger, green for driver's rear, purple for passenger rear. And then you have your RCA inputs. Now this will do high level. In order to do that, you're going to cut these off and connect your speaker wires from your source unit into these. Then you have your remote turn on input. Now like we said, this was made to attach to this radio here, amongst other things. Let's go ahead and do that and see what it looks like. Now for that, we'll go ahead and open our screw bag up. And inside we'll find some black screws here, as well as 2 silver screws. We'll set those aside for now. We'll continue into our second bag. Inside our second bag, we'll find 8 more screws. 4 of them are threaded Allen head screws, and then 4 of them are just be standard pointy head screws. Now we'll go ahead and turn the amplifier upside down, turn the bracket upside down. If you'll notice, there's this hole here. That's made to line up with where the power plug is. And if you set it on the back, you'll see where 4 locations for screws are available. We'll grab a 3mm Allen key and we'll screw them in place. Now at this point, we're going to want to make sure that the harness is plugged in, so we'll go ahead and take care of that. Now that might be a little easier to do before you put the brackets on, and we're going to want to wrap them out the bottom like this. Now let's take a look at the back of the W650. You'll notice these 2 spots here. These are where the amplifier is going to connect in, along with these 2 bottom screws here. We want to go ahead and remove those first. Now if you'll notice, these are a little short. These are the longer versions that this came with. These will be the screws we're going to use to screw it in, not the factory screws. Now if you're just test fitting it like we are, you're okay. If you're going to be putting this in the car, make sure everything is plugged into the back of this before you get to this step. So make sure that your USB is plugged in, your steering wheel controls, your mic, your Sirius XM, and your power plug are all plugged into it before you do this next step. You will not be able to do it afterwards. Now take your amplifier, and as you saw those hooks there, they're going to line up with the 2 holes at the top of the radio. You'll notice there's a groove right here. That's for the antenna, so make sure you line that up, otherwise you'll pinch the antenna, and set it down like this. Now flip it over and add in those 2 longer screws that we just showed you. Now naturally, to make things a little bit interesting, these are flathead screws instead of Phillips screws. Go ahead and line those up and screw them into place. And there we go. We now have the amplifier attached to the back of the radio. And as you can see, this is why we have to make sure everything is plugged in beforehand. There's going to be no room to add it after the fact. This harness here is going to have to loop over here into the middle of the radio so that you have room for the the main power plug. And if you saw our video on the W650, now this kind of makes sense why the USB plugs in upside down and loops over the top of the radio to make room for this harness. Now naturally you'd want to know how deep it is now. So with the amplifier attached, that brings this radio to 4 9/16. So with the bracket, it's adding another 2 3/16 of depth onto the back of the radio. It's not adding any more width to the radio, so this will still go into any double DIN radio mount. So now when you add these two together, you get a true 50 watt by 4 amplifier onto your W650 or any other radio you'd like to add this to. Now as we said, there is other mounting options available. There is side brackets. To install those, remove the 3 Phillips screws on the side of the amplifier, put the appropriate bracket on the right side, and that's easy to see. If you can't figure out from the hole, there is a dip here in the amplifier to match the dip here in the heatsink. The screws are long enough, so these are the screws you're going to use to reattach. Repeat the process on the opposite side. Now we have feet attached to the amplifier so that we can screw it down to a bracket if we needed to, attach it somewhere in the car where we have screw provisions that we can attach it to. With the feet attached, it does add another 1/2 inch of length to the amplifier, so that is going to take it to 7 7/8 of an inch long. And it does bring it up off of the floor a little bit. As you can see, there's like a 1/4 of an inch here, so it is going to make it a new height of 1 5/8 inches. Now there is a third way to mount it, and that is using these, the provided zip ties that came in the box. What these are used for is, if you notice right here, as you can see, they're little eyelets. And what the zip tie is designed to do is pass through the eyelet, and there's 2 of them, one located lower. And now you can go ahead and zip tie this around a harness or a bracket in the car and then tighten it up, and that is going to hold the amplifier in place. So even though this is a perfect fit for the W650, as you can see, it's universal enough to be used in just about any application you can throw at it. Alright guys, that's the new KTA 450 Alpine micro amplifier. Thank you so much for watching. You guys can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and right here on YouTube. You guys have a great day as always. We'll see you later next time. Bye.